Welcome to the More Time, More Money and More Wealth mini podcast for business owners, brought to you by Wow Advisors Group. This podcast is dedicated to business owners who would like to work smarter and not harder, earn significantly more income and create astonishing wealth. Now, let me introduce you to our host today, Hitesh Mohanlal.
Hello, it's Hitesh Mohanlal here, and as that introduction just said to you, I am a specialist business advisor that helps business owners reduce the hours they work in their business, makes the business more efficient so that more income is made, and then we try and build that extra income and convert that into exceptional wealth. And like all these things, you've got to practice what you preach. So myself, I basically work about 3 days a week, not because I have to, but because I love what I do. I probably take anywhere between 12 and 16 annual weeks leave from my business. And as I said, I have generated enough outside wealth that I actually do not need to work anymore. But anyway, the whole idea of the podcast is to help you do the same thing. And the next topic will follow shortly. Thank you. Welcome to our third episode of our podcast, which covers the More Money, More Time, More Wealth podcast for business owners. And today I wanted to talk about lifestyle and legacy. And I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking, well, hold on a second. How does lifestyle and legacy lead to working less, earning more, and creating more wealth? But I think what you've got to understand is that your lifestyle determines how much financial freedom and wealth you actually have. And then your legacy will determine how happy and how fulfilled you're going to be. And you need both for the kind of freedom that you want or seek. If you want financial freedom, and that's what you do want, but you also crave this personal freedom, and it's the two that gives you the fulfillment. And without both, you're going to be what I will call quite miserable. How do I know this? Because I've been there. I've been there where it's all money related, and then you just feel unhappy because you haven't done all the things that you and your soul wants to do. So here's the thing. There are different types of wealth. Most people think there's only financial wealth, and what they do is they ignore all the other types of wealth that you can have in your life. All right. So if you only have financial wealth and not the others, it makes you unhappy, and it actually makes you miserable. Okay? Because I've seen it. I've seen so many people who have money but are absolutely horrible to be around because all they have is financial wealth. Equally, I've seen people who can be as free as they want, but basically they can't even organize $50 for fuel. Having one but not the other is a bit like having a convertible Aston Martin with no engine. It's beautiful to look at, but what you really want to do is drive the damn thing on country roads with the wind in your hair, and until you do, it's never going to be quite right. If there's one thing I've learned about human behavior, it's how eventually your life becomes more about contentment and fulfillment and less about lifestyle. But at the same time, because we live in this money world, we need the money and we cannot live without it. So before we go on to it in more details, I want to explain what these different types of wealth can be. All right. So here they are. Firstly, your health. Okay. And if anybody understands this, it's me. Okay. Most business owners understand that the effect of ill health can have on a business when they have been ill. All right. If they've been ill and had to take some time away from the business, you know exactly what it means. If there is anything that can ruin your happiness and freedom, it is being ill. The second one, inner wealth. So that's your mindset, whether you have a positive mindset, whether you have self-respect, internal peace, and, if you like, a strong spiritual connection. Then we have family and social wealth. Okay, is your home life good? Because if it is, the chances are your business life is going to be good, and vice versa. I have yet to meet anybody who has had any regrets about spending time with the people they love. This is also true when it comes to spending time with friends and being members of a personal community. And finally, you have what I call career wealth. Most business owners want to make an impact in the world in some way. All right, could be sharing expert knowledge, it could be teaching, it could be volunteering, it could be being known as the best person in their field. Whatever it is, your career wealth is important to you. So these forms of non-financial wealth are what I call legacy. All right. And when I discuss lifestyle and legacy, I always say legacy is more important. And the reason I say that is because many are happy to put lifestyle on hold in order to get legacy, because they realize the lifestyle is only fulfilling on a temporary basis, whereas legacy can pull heartstrings and that stays with you forever. Okay. And I'll come to it in a bit more detail by giving you examples later. All right. See, so what happens is we work really hard. We make lots of money. And then we think, well, when the time's right, we're going to retire. And then we're going to do all the things in life that we really, really want to do. All right. There's a couple of things with this, and there are a couple of problems with this, right? Firstly, we're told that the human body will now continue to last longer. But all that really does is give us a false sense of security, because although we are living longer, we're also being sicker. Okay. And like a car, if a car's got 500,000 kilometers on the clock, by the time we are 70, there's a chance something's going to be wrong with our bodies. And giving a simple service is not going to be good enough. Sometimes we're going to have some major work required on our bodies, and in some cases, it literally is a lost cause. The issue is, as we get older, we find it a bit difficult to have all these adventures because our knees don't work anymore. Our backs don't work anymore. Okay? Pushing a wheelchair around on a beach is going to be hard work, and it does not work. Okay? And wearing adult nappies when you are older can't be fun. All right. I could really go on, and so I will. Salsa dancing in your late 60s just looks a bit wrong. Okay. Trying to getting in and out of a sports car just looks ridiculous and sometimes hilarious to everybody else except the person who's actually doing it. All right. And most people will know that if they're in a certain age group, what they want to do and what you want to do might be slightly different. So as you get older, you might find that the people, your friends and your family of a similar age group, all they want to do is sit in front of a TV with a warm cup of cocoa. All right. And you want to go out and try and do all these adventures and you can't. Okay. All right. Your kids, I've noticed this as my kids have got older. They don't really want to be with us all the time, okay? And the only time they want to be with me is when they know they're going to get some money. Otherwise, they're about 1,000,000 kilometers away, all right? And so it doesn't really stop there either, because we wake up every day, we spend hours traveling or trying to get to work and earn money to pay for the clothes, the cars that get us to work, and the house that we're not even living in most of the time because we're just too busy working. And you have to ask, why are we doing this? All right. And what happens is, because we feel so guilty about working so hard and with all those hours, what we do is we let off this thing called financial steam. All right. And spend in the hope that it will make us or our loved ones happy. And it does, but it only does that for a short period of time. Okay. Now, when it comes to business owners, there are 3 types that I generally find. 1, those that are just making ends meet. These are business owners who are genuinely doing it tough. They're working long hours, they're paying their team, they're paying their suppliers, they pay the tax man, and then whatever's left is for them. Okay? For many, what it really means is that if they were actually employed in a job, they would probably earn more. They would have larger superannuation balances than they would have running their own businesses. Just making ends meet give them the belief that financial freedom cannot be achieved. Then you get those who are doing it very well. Generally, it takes time for a business owner to get their business to a stage where all that hard work begins to pay off. And that's when they let off financial steam. They have large earnings, but not much wealth considering those earnings, because they're letting off the financial steam and they're spending it. And sometimes it's to let everybody else know that they've been successful in business. And so they give this impression that they have wealth. All right. What we tend to find is that those business owners believe that those good times will continue, and they could and have the potential to be financially free, but most do not make it. All right. And then the third type is the ones who are between the first and the second. And these business owners are generally comfortable. They're careful with their money. They realize that because they are just comfortable, they need to think about their financial future. These business owners tend to have more wealth than any higher earning business owner. All right. So if you're a high earning business owner, you can end up in this extreme situation where you are trying to keep up with your peers on similar incomes and luxuries, which means you could be totally jeopardizing financial freedom and long-term wealth. If you're a business owner just making ends meet, financial freedom seems like pie in the sky. You don't think you're going to get there, but that's not true. It may be that the business just needs to be more efficient. There may be other ways that the business can generate income which they haven't considered, and there are some simple strategies that you can do today to make that difference. Many think that earning more money equals happiness. It doesn't, and I'm pretty sure you already know this. What's the point of having a load of cash, a fancy car, a large home, and then even an Amiga watch if you're not happy or fulfilled? All right. Don't get me wrong. You do have to make money to achieve financial freedom. It's not going to happen if you're earning 20 grand a year unless you're prepared to live like a hermit. All right. And just having cabbage soup. But even then, you're going to have your work cut out to make it all work. I've seen a lot of business owners that make a lot of money. They have a lot of fancy toys. They send their kids to the best schools money can buy. And yet they're not happy because they're just too busy making more money, which they then spend in the hope it's going to make them feel better. And again, it does, but only for a while. I have a really simple belief system. I do not believe the universe created human beings to spend the first quarter of their lives learning and trying to blow up the chemistry lab in school. The next third of their life working as hard as they can, being a slave to their job or their business, and then the final part of their life worrying about whether they have enough income or money to survive the rest of the days. Human beings created this system. Okay? And I just want you to think about this for a second. If you had all the money in the world and you did not have to work, what would you do? I'll still get the odd person who will say, you know what, I'll still continue to work because, you know what, I'm going to get so bored out of my mind. I might become a mass murderer and specialize myself in removing eyeballs or whatever, right? But even they will eventually concede that, you know what, they'll probably work a lot less and they will spend time doing the things that they really would like to do. Most people want to be adventurous. They want to see the world. They want to climb mountains. They want to drive fast cars. They want to swim with dolphins. They want to fly like a bird. In other words, what they really want is freedom. But long hours just does not allow you to do this. I've got another business called MediSuccess, which really services the medical professionals as clients. And medical professionals often tell me that when they have the misfortune to tell someone that they are going to be terminally ill, especially a business owner, right? they often see the business owner, they throw everything away to one side, right? And try and live an entire lifetime in the short time that they have, but they're never quite able to complete all the things that they wanted to do. A few years ago, I had a dear friend of mine. He was a business owner, and he was diagnosed with cancer and actually passed away from cancer. And he was a hardworking person. He had a family business. The family was a tiny empire, if you would like. And generally, work came first, right? It didn't mean he ignored his family. It didn't mean he didn't go on holidays. It didn't mean he wasn't at his kids' events or anything like that. In fact, he was really sociable, right? But work tended to take up a fair amount of his time, and he was a busy man. But to give you an idea, once he was diagnosed, he kind of threw the business to the side, and he started having lunches with his wife, which he probably never had during the weekday. And in the last 12 months of his life, I had more lunches with him than I had 13 years prior. His priorities in life and his perception about life had changed. So when we're faced with limited time, we reflect on what life really means. And sometimes we reflect on it when it's too late. And this is why I thought this podcast would be good, because I want you to understand, and I don't want you to be one of those that it's too late for. All right. So I want you to spend some time on this. All right. So here's the question that I really should be asking you. What kind of lifestyle do you want? Not just now, but later in life. And I will almost guarantee you've had a fleeting thought about it, but you haven't really thought too much about it, because you know what? It's all too hard. And so you ignore it, okay? And then 40 years later, you get around to thinking and taking it seriously, by which time it's too late, okay? Because you could be dead, about to die, or worse, you can't even remember who you are, because the brain cells are not quite what they used to be. So, and I think genuinely, I think business owners don't achieve financial freedom because they don't ask themselves this question. Because without a target, there's nothing really to aim for, okay? And you can have a lot of fun with this, right? You can ask the question and your mind's going to come up with all kinds of things that are weird and wonderful that you'd like to do, right? But you know, you got to also be a bit realistic, because it gets a bit tricky. Because if you decide that, you know what, you're going to meditate in the Himalayas and it sounds really tranquil and lovely and wonderful, but once you're there, after a while, you realize, look, there's no internet connection and there's no chance you're going to get on Instagram. And then there's absolutely no chance of having any sex either, because if you remove all your clothing, there's a 100% chance all your private parts are going to freeze off. Okay. So, you know, you've got to be realistic about all these things. You've got to understand what it really means. But there are about 6 areas to our lives. And these are what I will say they are, right? You got to have good physical and mental health, right? Do you regularly look after yourself? Are you strong? Are you getting stronger? What needs to happen to make it better? Do you need to eat better? Do you need to train more? Think about those kind of things, okay? Love and relationships. Do you have deep, loving connections with those you care and love about? Okay? If you've got a soulmate, what kind of connection do you have with them? How many hours do you really want to work? How many hours do you want to spend with your family? What needs to happen to make your relationship kind of extra special? All right? Do you have a mission in life? Is it a business empire? Is it to become the most advanced business in your field? Is it to create a business that not only creates an income, but makes a major impact in the world? And your mission doesn't have to be grand. It could be simple. I'm going to raise a guide dog so that it's going to help one visually impaired person transform their life. All right. What do you need to do to make that mission come true? All right. And don't forget fun. What trips, adventures, parties, experiences, hobbies, what do you want to do that, you know, the things that bring massive smiles to faces? What is it that's going to get your juices going? All right. We often forget that the reason we work so hard is so that we can enjoy the pleasures of that work. Okay. So make these pleasures meaningful, because you know what, buying a pair of heels, a watch, a dress, or whatever it is, it's only pleasurable for that moment. Once we have them, we want more. I'm talking about pleasures that you can have that you are going to cherish for a very, very long time. Finances, right? Are your expenses responsible most of the time? All right. You're never going to be perfect, so don't try to be. Okay. To achieve financial freedom, you don't have to be the meanest person on the earth with your wallet. You just need to be reasonable and responsible. So are you saving enough? Are you investing enough? What would you do in your life if you get financial freedom? What's it going to look like? All right. And those are just a few things to kind of get you going, but do ask them, absorb yourself in them and go deep. All right. But it doesn't really end there, because being rich has nothing to do really with money. I've said this before. It's all to do with fulfillment. You can be money rich and unhappy. Emotionally, this makes you poor, and unhappiness is the ultimate failure. Okay. And I will give you a classic example. Robin Williams. All right. One of the most successful actors in Hollywood, a man who made the world laugh. And yet this is a man who hung himself. All right. So whether you are fulfilled or not is determined by the amount of joy you have in your life and the amount of joy you bring in the lives of others. Because your life is not just about you, it's also about others. If you have all the joy, but everyone around you just wants to stick a knife in you, this is not good. You will always be remembered as the sad, horrible person whose face everybody wanted to rearrange. It could be worse. You might not even be remembered at all. Everybody leaves a legacy. You may not know what that is, but you will leave one. Leaving one that allows the next generation or your generation to be financially free is as good as any other. The fact of the matter is this: it is not the years in your life that count. It's the life in those years that count. Most clients will tell me they want to be remembered as the person who was nice or happy, or the one who did the right thing. It's about integrity. It's about values. It's about doing the right thing. If you can add financial freedom to that, that's just the icing on the cake. See, when you decided to open a business, it was to have freedom. Money will have been a motivator, no doubt, but it was time, freedom, and flexibility that you crave more. Financial freedom, on the other hand, was not really a thought. And your legacy does not have to be grand. It doesn't mean you have to spend years in an African jungle saving the elephants or surviving on little more than dry grass while, lions eye you up for being a tasty meal, or even being an ashram helping orphans survive this sometimes very cruel world. It's what makes you happy. It's what you want. I know I've spent quite a bit of time on legacy and quite a bit on this podcast talking about it, but there is a reason. You're not going to be happy with just financial freedom, so I do not want you to have that on its own, okay? I want you to have financial freedom, and I want you to be content, and I want you to be happy. And that is ultimate success. Okay. And you can't do this unless you want to know what it is you want in life and what it is going to be that's going to make you content and happy. And I'll give you an example of myself, right? It's very simple for me. I decided my legacy a long time ago when I started Well was to help as many business owners reduce their working hours, increase their income, and help them to financial freedom so that they can have an outstanding life with the ones that they love. All right. And as a human being, I believe it's my duty that I must assist, help, and serve those who are less fortunate than me. All right. And because of that, we joined an organization called B1G1, which is dedicated to meeting the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And during that time, and the other bits and pieces that we have done within WOW, I'm going to give you an example of things that are part of our legacy. So we've raised about $60,000 for the blind. Okay, my father was blind, so it has an emotional connection to me. Okay, we've fed school children for 21 days as part of our Feed a School for a Day scheme. All right. I've run medical missions in the Philippines, and we've treated 1,806 patients for free. Okay, we've provided 3,335 days of medical treatment for people. We've provided 9,105 days for education support services, and 2,548 days we have given out for food. And in addition, we've given 1 million people access to clean water when they didn't have any. Okay. And I'm saying this to you not because I want to brag or tell you how wonderful I am. I'm telling you is because I've worked out what my legacy is. And because I've done that, I'm working towards fulfilling that. Okay. And so I want you to know that if you know what your legacy is going to be, you will somehow work it out. You will somehow manage to work out what needs to be done to achieve it. So I'm going to end here. I hope that was useful for you, and we'll see you on the next podcast.